When I was 11, I went to Barnes & Noble with my brother and my dad, and I found this shiny red box that said how to play harmonica, and it had a book that came inside it, this very skinny book, and it came with I think it was called a Victoria, and it was, one of those cheap harmonicas with it. And I begged my dad, I was still at that age, at that time where if I saw something shiny, I would, ask for it. My dad said yes, only if I, actually did something with it and didn't just play with it and annoy my family for a couple of days and then never pick it up again. And I don't know why, but I stuck with it. And the coolest thing I have to say about that time was when I got into the car with my mom, my dad, and my brother. I opened up the box and I took the book out, and on the back of the book there was a picture of Howlin' Wolf. It was the first time I ever seen an actual picture of Howlin' Wolf, and there's something about it that was just really enticing and also very scary. He was just very weird, very scary, very foreign to me, and it only made me that much more interested in the harmonica. And the book was cool. It had all these cool pictures of Stevie Wonder and Little Walter and Big Mama Thornton. A lot of people I didn't know, by name yet, and I think that helped with my early playing, especially at that age, because it kept my imagination going and kept me kind of, interested by all these like colorful and weird and new images that came along with the instrument. And I went through the book pretty quick, and then I started to kind of just branch out on my own without any rules of how to go about learning. So just tracing what I knew about the harmonica, the very next influence I would say, along with my buddy Jay Gaunt, we share this, is that I was a big fan of the Blues Brothers and Dan Aykroyd. So I bought a Blues Brothers CD and learned what I could from his playing, and that went by pretty quick. But I feel like it needs to be said that my very first influence as far as like actually studying somebody was Dan Aykroyd. And then came on was Howlin' Wolf and Sonny Boy 2, Rice Miller. And the reason why I think is because they were unamplified players. So I was in my room with a couple of harmonicas, and they seemed like the closest that I could mimic, because they weren't playing through an amplifier. Little Walter and Big Walter and all those other guys, they came later into my playing. And the first thing I learned from Howlin' Wolf was his pet lick, that and it's very much like Rice Miller, Sonny Boy 2. And what I learned from Sonny Boy was that finessing kind of style, all that kind of, the wah-wahs and the bends and all that stuff. And after a while, I kind of plateaued on my own. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video was because I, much like a lot of my peers, turned to the internet, and I found videos of Jason Ritchie, Ronnie Shellis, and Adam Gusso. And Adam, for me, was the most helpful because of his thorough instructions and how often he kept up, with his videos. And I think if it wasn't for Adam and Jason and Ronnie, I probably wouldn't be, you know, what I am as far as a musician today. Because, you know, even though turns out, 6 months later, I find out that Ronnie lives 20 minutes from me. At the time, I had nobody to, you know, guide me. So, you know, and I know that a lot of my friends, you know, Brandon Bailey, Jay Gaunt, RJ Harmon, Connor Frontera, you know, Jake Friel, we all kind of took off through the internet. And, you know, I just wanted to kind of bring up this little, you know, thing that I don't, this little side of me that I don't think a lot of people might know. It's just, I too came from the school of Adam Gusso and Ronnie Shellis and Jason Ritchie. And, you know, one thing I learned from, very early on, I did a tum block. And what I did was I learned from Adam Gusso how to, like, you know, make, you know, pucker playing sound fuller, you know, by opening up my lips to, you know, grab a chord and then closing it to get a single hole, you know, like. You know. And, you know, from Ronnie, I learned, you know, kind of like tonality and finessing and kind of the attitude I wanted to have in my playing. And then with Jason, I loved, I really loved his, you know, everyone talks about, like, you know, his rhythms and his, you know, and his speed, but I really liked his wails on the harmonica, you know, like. Now, it may not sound like Jason, but that's where I got it from. Was the way he. That's why Jason Ritchie and Preston, but like just that kind of that attitude that he had. You know, if you can check out on YouTube the video where Jason's lost somewhere in Europe on a train, and you'll know what I'm talking about. And that was pretty much it for me. You know, very early on. Later on, I, you know, would go hunt down Ronnie wherever he was and bug him to teach me something. And I don't know. I just felt like sharing a little bit as far as like where I came from, and you know, just give my my 2 cents on that. You know, how to start and where to go about playing, and you know how something as insignificant as me wanting a shiny box with a harmonica in it to becoming, you know, completely invested and in love with this music and this instrument and all the places that it's taken me. And it's a funny thing to think about. So I thought I'd just share that.